Can you believe it? State of Origin Game 2 is this Sunday. It's come around very, very fast. And with that, I think it's time we go through both the New South Wales and Queensland team. And I give my thoughts on the team, as well as give a bit of a preview for the game itself. Now, as you can tell by the title, I'm going to be going through the Queensland team today and just giving a few thoughts on them. Now, I'm not going to bother going through the whole team, because for the most part, the team's the same as the first one, just with a few changes here and there. So I'm kind of just going to talk about the changes mostly. Now, going into Game 1, Queensland had a lot of disruptions. So that's the first positive you can take going into Game 2, is that the disruptions aren't there as much. At least at the time of recording this anyways. Now, going into Game 1, all the talk was about the fullback position and the utility position. There was a little bit of talk about the wing, but I think most people were kind of happy with the wingers. But yeah, the fullback and the utility position was up for a debate. Now, obviously, if Billy Slater is fit, he's going to be a fullback. He's the best fullback in the comp. So there's no debating that Billy Slater should be in this team. The problem was that utility spot. Now, obviously, Michael Morgan usually is the utility. He ended up going into the starting side over Kalyn Ponga. A lot of people wanted Kalyn Ponga in that starting side, and then they also brought in Milford instead of Ponga. Not so much this time. Looks like Ponga's going to get his chance off the bench in that utility role. Obviously, Michael Morgan injured. I actually think Michael Morgan will be a big loss. A lot of the times when there's an injury in Origin, they kind of go for someone who's a similar replacement, whereas Michael Morgan and Kalyn Ponga are like two complete different players. Obviously, Morgan can play in the halves, he can play like any position in the back line, and we've seen he's more than capable of playing in the forwards for Origin. Now, I'm not even sure where they're going to play Kalyn Ponga, to be honest. I mean, he can play fullback and he can play in the halves, but I don't know what other positions he can play. I guess he can play wing, but it's not. He doesn't have that big body like Michael Morgan, so you wouldn't think he's going to come on and play in the forward. So I really don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they'll just throw him on in, say, like the lock position and just let him roam around and just play as an extra fullback. I don't really know. I don't really know, because you're not going to take off Billy Slater or someone to put Ponga on. I wouldn't think so anyways. So far we've only really talked about a utility spot off the bench where, you know, Ponga probably only play like 10 minutes. It's not really that important of a position. What is an important position is the prop position. Napa out, and I think he'll be a loss. I don't know if he's like a huge loss, because I can't really recall him in Origin like killing it or anything. Like, he's not been bad, but it's not like he's been outstanding or anything. The problem is they've brought in Glasby, who I don't know if he's up for Origin. It's hard to say. I think Queensland's weak point is obviously their forward pack. It's not that their forward pack's even like that bad or anything. It's just I think the New South Wales forward pack is quite strong. Although for big parts of the game, they did match it with New South Wales. Now, there are a lot of Broncos supporters and a lot of Queensland supporters who wanted Corey Oates in the side. The only problem is Valentine Holmes hasn't really done anything to lose his spot. Dane Gagai hasn't done anything to lose his spot. So that it's just kind of like Corey Oates is just the third man out. He's just unlucky, really. Speaking of backs, we're going to talk about Will Chambers. Now, obviously, in Game 1, he had a shocker. He had a stinker. That doesn't usually happen with Will Chambers. He's a pretty consistent player. He does have a tendency to not pass the ball, but it seemed like the last game he couldn't catch the ball either. Now, you'd expect him to line up against Latrell Mitchell like he did last game. The only thing is, Latrell Mitchell, the last game he played for the Roosters, obviously got injured, so maybe there's some doubts over Latrell Mitchell about his fitness, so maybe that's somewhere Queensland should look to take advantage of. Also, another thing Queensland need to do is get Greg Inglis the ball more. As a New South Wales supporter, the only one who really gave me a bit of a scare in Game 1 was Greg Inglis. There were a few times Inglis was up against James Roberts, and I think we all know Roberts isn't the best defender. He's not bad, but he's not the best defender, and Inglis is obviously so good. His fend is unbelievable, and it did work a few times in Game 1, but they didn't go out there often enough, in my opinion. Now, I think it was pretty obvious that Roberts was injured and a bit underdone for Game 1. Hopefully for New South Wales fans, and going into Game 2, he's a bit fitter, so he might be able to contain Inglis a little bit more. But yeah, Inglis is just so good. It doesn't matter who he's up against. You've got to get him the ball. It's hard to say whether the Queensland team is better on paper than the team they put out in Game 1, but I will say that it's definitely not any worse. I think you can argue that Billy Slater alone makes this team better. In a team full of young players who haven't really played much Origin, Billy Slater's experience is invaluable. Also, I'm keen to just see where they decide to play Kalyn Ponga and how it goes. Anyway, guys, that was my 2 cents on the Queensland team. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Make sure you leave in the comment section below what were your thoughts on the Queensland side, and whereabouts are they going to play Kalyn Ponga? I want you to tell me as well. Now, if you did happen to enjoy the video, make sure you go ahead and leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. It's on the screen below. It's Mr. Luke on YT, and you may as well go and check out some of my other videos as well on the channel. Alright guys, that's all I got to say. That is the end of the video. I'll see you for the next one. Bye guys.